And so tonight we just pray that this would help to ease any anxieties that might be there. Also an opportunity, as Meredith said, to ask whatever questions that you have. We'll be answering those at the end. So hang on to those and we'll make sure that we get to as many of those as our time allots. And wanted to let you know that there are 6 things in particular that we're going to cover in the webinar tonight. So we're going to talk about what does it mean to be on a metro property, which you are, and we'll talk through the system of the metro. Also, we'll give you a picture of what your morning and evening commute picture looks like. We'll talk about the registration process and what does that mean for you in the St. Paul University pocket. Also, we'll talk about the areas of interest. So being in the place in the hotels that you are in, what are the specific advantages that you have, whether it's food, grocery stores, shopping centers, those kind of things. So we'll try to give you a heads up on that. We'll also talk about the Monday consideration. What does Monday look like for you guys? Because Monday will be a little bit different, and we'll talk about that as well. But we want to start with a little bit of a big picture of the gathering. And we're excited that we will be in 69 different hotel properties. That's quite a bit. And we give you Meredith's got a map up there that shows kind of the pockets that different people are in. So you can see that you're in the St. Paul University pocket, you're the blue over on that side. And so it should be everyone that's on this webinar tonight, you are on the same green line, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you can also see where some of the other ones are. In your particular pocket, you both are downtown St. Paul and then also towards the university properties, which we'll talk in detail about each of those. And we wanted to start a little bit with just talking about what are some of the advantages that you have being in this particular hotel pocket that nobody else has but you. And Mark is going to tell you a little bit about what those are.
Absolutely. It's going to start talking a little bit about our St. Paul properties, what is very specific in your area. Is one, you probably already maybe been on Google Maps or checked it out, is to be thinking about restaurants that are in downtown St. Paul. It's a beautiful downtown with lots to do. So especially maybe on the front end of the gathering or at the end of the gathering, that you got a great chance to enjoy that city. It is one that probably caters a lot kind of during the weekday traffic. So you might want to check hours, especially on weekends when things are open, and to know like what the restaurant times might be, as well as there's maybe not tons of fast food down there because of, again, the audience that's generally there, but check into that, find what's there, but it might be a great opportunity to buy a really nice bite to eat too with your group. But another great advantage that you have being on the green line is that check along the green line about how many food pockets there are as you're traveling, depending on the time of day, that you can get off and get on. We're going to talk about how your pass is going to work here in a minute, but that there'll be so many options throughout the city of St. Paul that you might be able to get off in a short walking distance, be able to enjoy maybe different cultural foods or be able to enjoy other pockets of fast food and along the way in St. Paul. Just some other things to kind of think about that are enjoyable down in downtown St. Paul. Union Depot Station, that's actually the station where some people will be picking up the green line, but also that's a historic train station that actually, if you're taking Amtrak, is where the main station is there in St. Paul. It's beautiful just to kind of go check it out. If you're into architecture, if you have kids into that, history, that type of thing, it's right there downtown, free to walk into. Also, you're right next to the Minnesota State Capitol. Best Western specifically, you're basically across the street from the grounds, so a great chance to see that. There's a great Mississippi National River Recreation Area too, which is essentially right downtown St. Paul along the river. Beautiful green spaces, just places again where your groups can go, hang out, and see that beautiful downtown. There's also a Science Museum in downtown St. Paul, as well as the Minnesota History Center that are again all tied to the state capitol being in downtown St. Paul. So just a couple of things to be thinking about that you might do for activities, some that are free of charge and easy, and some you might want to check out their website about opportunities they might provide for you right there in downtown St. Paul. Talking about a little bit more like maybe some shopping opportunities and things that you have there in downtown is that there are things, of course, like Walmarts and Targets and Costco and Sam's Clubs that you have that if you've got membership and if you're driving and they might be accessible to you. Just kind of doing a quick search on Google, you're talking about a 20-minute drive. Really, the nearest Walmart and Sam's Club are actually kind of closer over to the airport. Target, you're in the Twin Cities, you got to have a Target pretty close by, as you know. There's one about a 15-minute drive or closer there as well. And then the Costco is about a 15-minute drive as well. There are also smaller grocery stores and markets downtown, too, if you need things along the way. One that I bring up is Lunds and Burley's. That's in downtown St. Paul. That's kind of on the northeast corner of downtown. But again, it's an opportunity that you'd be able to go to either on a little bit of a longer walk maybe, or just a short Uber ride that you'd be able to get up and take advantage of that in the downtown area. So just to kind of give you a little bit of idea in downtown St. Paul. In the university area, again, if you've been on Google Maps and seen what's in the area, you have a lot of restaurants right there near their university. There's really kind of a small little kind of commercial area that you're next to right there on Washington and University Avenues. And so great things that you can take advantage of. Fast food, kind of sit down casual as well. A lot of opportunities for you. And as they keep reminding us too, is for the most part, you have large universities like the University of Minnesota go year round, but definitely the number of students are lower. So again, it's a great opportunity for you to be in those restaurants. Certainly in that kind of commercial area too, there's Walgreens. There's things to see with the university. TCF Bank Stadium, the Gophers, that's where they play their football, as well as Williams Arena Sports Pavilion is in the area as well. Just to kind of give you an idea too from other things you might want to see. From that area, you're basically 10 minutes traveling west to downtown Minneapolis, about a 20-minute ride to downtown St. Paul. Also in that general area, you got a Target Express close by. Walmart's about 11 minutes away in St. Paul. And then again, kind of Costco, Sam Club's about 17 to 20 minutes if you're looking to pick things up at stores like that. So that kind of just gives you a little bit of a lay in the land, things to look into, but definitely be checking Google Maps along the way of things that you might be looking to specifically to help your time in St. Paul and in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and in fact, some of our favorite restaurants are in St. Paul.
Absolutely, it's fantastic.
Some really good stuff. Some Iron Chef winning in St. Paul. And for the Mighty Duck fans, there's Mickey's Diner, which is a bar that's just amazing to go to. It's like a little street car. It doesn't hold a lot of people, but it's a great breakfast kind of place. So anyway, some fun places to go and visit. Now, we're going to move a little bit into this webinar on thinking about specific moments. So like, for example, when what happens, we'll start with kind of the beginning of the gathering, knowing that some of you are going to drive. And we'll talk a little bit about the driving of the hotels. Every hotel is a little bit different on that. So check with your hotels what their parking packages are. Some of them have garages. Some of them have free parking. And so just check with them to see what they allow. But for those who are flying, and Mark, I'm going to throw this at you. What can they do if they're flying into to Minneapolis? How can they get? What are some different ways that they can get to the hotel property that they're at?
Sure. We'll kind of deal with four just because we get these questions a lot. One is, obviously, we're here talking about properties on the Metro line. You are going to be on the green line, your hotel properties, in terms of University and St. Paul. There is a way, a really easy, convenient way to get from the airport to your property via the Metro train line. The thing they start getting familiar with is when you're at the airport, you're on the blue line. The blue line runs from basically Mall of America Airport and then up to downtown Minneapolis to Target Field. Green line runs from downtown Minneapolis Target Field to downtown St. Paul. So when if you want to use the bright light rail, you do have to make a change of the line. And so you actually have to go all the way into downtown Minneapolis, a little ways into to US Bank Stadium and change there over to the green line and then head eastbound into St. Paul. It's about a 30-minute drive if you're at the university area and then close to an hour if you're in downtown St. Paul. And then on that first trip, just think about it, you have luggage. So some of you aren't like immediately next to the line. Think about if that's another thing you want to do, to walk a number of blocks. You might have rain, you might have other stuff. So just kind of something to think about in terms of when you have luggage and the flexibility or inflexibility you might have when you're traveling. A lot of people ask about complimentary shuttles from the hotel. Most likely your hotel in downtown St. Paul probably does not have one. But certainly, like Derek said, call them, check their website, see what they have. But most likely from that distance, they probably do not, but I would definitely check on that and see what they have. Even if you do go that route, keep in mind, most of those shuttles only seat about 12 to 15 passengers, so depending on the size of your group. Also, you're sharing with other hotel guests. And another thing, as a positive side too, though, if you might get there and you might see they have shuttles and wonder what they're for. Those shuttles might be valuable. They might run you to maybe that grocery store that's a few minutes away instead of calling Uber. So ask that at the front desk if you see they have shuttles, about what maybe is the range that they would take you to. If you just need to go pick up some things for your group or whatever, is to ask that question. Another great opportunity for you to get from airport to your hotel property It's the PRA Shuttle. PRA is our transportation company that's working with us on transportation for some other properties, as well as our offsite serving events. The cost for that is $18 per person one way. So again, that would pick up directly at the airport, take you to your property, and then you can assign a time to get picked up and taken back. They do shoulder dates as well, so it doesn't have to just be like on the 11th and the 15th. They do the 10th and the 16th as well. So that'll be an opportunity that you'll have. And then another thing too that would lift up is certainly we've been blessed with this, I know in the Twin Cities, is to use rideshare apps, whether that's Uber or Lyft or others along the way. One thing I didn't say back up the light rail I want to say too, that also goes to both terminals. So it goes to Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. Terminal 2 primarily Southwest, all other airlines at Terminal 1. It picks up at both as well too. So it's really convenient that way if you want to use the light rail.
Excellent. And one of the things that you really have, the advantage that you have on the Metro is that you really have a lot of different options of coming both downtown and back to your hotel again. So the schedule is really up to you in many ways. Metro runs all day long, and really during the weekdays, every 10 minutes there's a train that comes. So you just kind of, we'll have the schedule up there on that so you can see that, but you can count on it, about every 10 minutes, almost all day long, a train comes. And on the weekends, it's a little different. It's about every 10 to 20 minutes, but they've got great apps so you can see kind of the different times that comes. And we will also present and give you some of that information too, and give you some direction, some guidance on that, which times are best to make sure that you get to the right thing. We are also working with the city. We've had a lot of conversations with them to try to alleviate any kind of pressure that happens during the rush hour transit for their residents. One of the things we want to make sure that you're aware of is that there are a lot of residents that use this as their primary source of transportation during the whole, probably the whole time that we're here on the weekdays and others on the weekends. And one of the things that we want to do is we really want to be a really powerful witness to the city on who we are and who we represent. And so one of the things we want to encourage you as a group leader to do is to help your youth understand opportunities of witness there are for us. So for example, if we start to fill a train and it's really full and a resident comes in and is walking down and it's a great opportunity for one of our kids to offer a seat so that they can sit down and have the witness of standing. Or if we have other adults that need to sit and able-bodied youth who are able to grab a rail and to stand during the thing, it's just a really powerful opportunity that we have to leave an impression on the city. And one of the things, think about this, there are a lot of people when they hear that 20,000 youth are coming into a city and they're teenagers, their first thought isn't that is going to be amazing. Now we know it is. And one of the things that we hear a lot from cities is like, these youth are tremendous. I haven't seen youth like this. And so we just want to encourage you to help them look at different opportunities. I remember when I would bring youth down as a youth leader, sometimes we get so wrapped up in kind of our own group and our own selves that we sometimes miss the people around us. And we just have a really powerful opportunity to be a great witness within the city, and specifically on the Metro line as people are riding it every day during the midday and in the evening. And on this particular line, the Green Line, we have about 2,500 participants that will be coming into the city each day and back to the hotel every night. So 2,500 that we are transporting in and back again. And so let's talk a little bit about the Green Line in particular that you will all be on. And so Mark, can you tell them just some general information about the Green Line that they're going to be on?
Absolutely. This map that Meredith put up is a perfect one to show the Green Line, plus also to kind of show you that exchange point if you're coming from the airport. So you'll see down at the bottom it says Blue Line to Mall of America. That's also the airport. So you'd be coming up and going to that US Bank Stadium stop and getting on the Green Line. Then you see again, the Green Line runs pretty much from Target Field on the west, downtown Minneapolis, to the Union Depot at the end of the line in downtown St. Paul. Primarily, our properties then are down in that kind of gray area to the right of downtown St. Paul, and then the West Bank, East Bank, Prospect Park stops that you see right before US Bank Stadium. And even that Stadium Village one can be utilized probably by us too, depending on when we get the final plan for Metro. So it just kind of gives you a little bit of a lay of the land of how the Green Line works. It's pretty much an east to west line. And so you can get familiar with when you're heading in the morning, you're going west, you're going to Minneapolis. At night, you're heading east, you're going to St. Paul. And those are kind of just the markers to get used to. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a zoomed in view of St. Paul and to talk about a little bit of the lay of the land of those stops. Is that kind of shows you again what downtown St. Paul looks like. Really, all those stops are pretty close to each other. We're going to be hearing more about Metro too, about how to utilize maybe Central and Union a little bit differently, maybe to even encourage some properties to go to one stop other than the other. That's a very short distance between those two, just a couple of blocks. And then the other main one we use is Capitol Rice Street for the Best Western. That's right up there by the Capitol. I want to take a minute or two just to kind of give you a breakdown, as Derek told you, about the overall numbers that we have on this line, and just to kind of, so you can see how that flow goes and how we're trying to schedule you with Metro. So Hyatt Place, you're right downtown, right next to Union Depot, to that station. That's the end of the line when you get on there, or the start of the line, however you want to look at it. Then Central Station's that next one in. We got quite a few people at those three properties. That's kind of a central location. Doubletree, Intercontinental, St. Paul Hotel are all right there. Then the next one, again, going as you head out of town, is that Capitol Rice Street Station where the Best Western's at. So you got a couple of a block walk. So you'll budget probably 10 minutes in. I should say up at the Central Station, those properties should probably budget about 10-minute walk to go from the lobby to the actual station itself. So when we start giving you times, you start seeing times for the train you're supposed to be on, make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to get to the station and get comfortable. So probably a good 15 minutes or so. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of the numbers that you have in downtown St. Paul and how probably we'll have you officially here in a little bit assigned to where we're really asking you to pick up your train so that Metro's ready for you and that we're not creating too much of a swell of people, both for local participants, but also our own, because we got people further down the line. The next map looks a little bit more closely at, again, our university stations. Primarily, we're using that West Bank, East Bank, and Prospect. Again, Stadium Village might play into that too. Really, that's a pretty tight distance, or pretty short distance, I should say, between East Bank and Stadium. That's the one that's closest to the football field for the Gophers, a stadium. So those are the main ones we'll utilize. Just kind of looking again at the breakdown of the properties that are there. Prospect Park, that's the one furthest to the east or closest to St. Paul. Hampton Inn and Suites, you walk out your front door and you'll be looking at the station. Like it's basically a half a block away, really convenient for you. We'd love to say that we had a personal train come and pick you up. That's about what it's going to feel like, that you are right there on the line. So you'll be able to catch that there. University East Bank, again, this is one that is smack dab in the middle of that commerce area, restaurants, shopping opportunities like with Walgreens and things like that if you need to pick things up. Real fun little college feel area right there on that East Bank station. Doubletree, you're there, and then the Graduate, formerly was the Commons. Have you seen that? Now it's called the Graduate. That's on that area as well. And then just so you know, that is also where our young adult volunteers will probably be getting on and off if they're utilizing the Metro too. They're staying in that area as well. So kind of gives you an idea. That 780 number is the 2 hotels. So you have Yavs as well, but their schedule will probably be a little bit different than yours. Then that University West Bank, again, that's going into downtown Minneapolis, is the Courtyard Minneapolis. Yours is a little unique. It's actually kind of on an underpass. So you actually, I'd budget yourself probably a good 10 minutes to get to your station. You'll walk and then you'll actually go down from the street level down below. It's an open area. It's not a subway or anything like that. It's an open area, but you go down to the station itself. And so give yourself time to make that walk. Courtyard's kind of unique. You're across the river. So you might, on a good day and you feel like walking, you're walkable. It's a long walk, but you can walk to the facilities from there if you want to. But we put you on the line just because it is a pretty long walk. You're kind of far out, especially at night. We recommend you probably take the line back from the mass event. So just that's kind of how we have that slotted. I should say too, back up to the University East Bank too. Doubletree, you're probably about a 10 to 15 minute walk to budget that in. Graduate, you are very close. You pretty much walk out your front door. The station's just a short walk from where you're at. So just kind of as you know, as you're budgeting that time, as you think about the other components of getting your groups to the station. Next has had a couple of quick kind of general notes, and Derek jump in here too, that we've been talking about in terms of Metro, some things to consider. Derek's already mentioned a number of those. Is the only really other thing that I bring up is just again to reiterate is there are the two lines, and we're going to talk about the pass here in a minute. Your pass is going to be good for either line. So that's real helpful to remember in terms of if you go to the Mall of America or to the airport, that just make sure you're on the right one. You'll get used to it once you get there, but your pass will work for both. So that just gives you a little bit of information in general about Metro tips. I don't know, Derek, if you've got any others.
No, that's good. I know we'll probably a few others that will come out as we kind of go along. So that's good for now. Um, so Mark, let's jump a little bit into, we'll talk about now that they're there and they kind of got the familiarity between the Green Line, some of the places they're in. Let's talk about some of the programming stuff. And so we'll start with the registration. And we know that there are a lot of groups that are coming in a day early. And one of the things that's beautiful about the line, the Green Line, is that it gives you the freedom to come and go as you please. So depending on what your group is doing and some of the plans that they have, you can plan your route coming in and out. The one thing we would just want to encourage you to remember is when it's rush hour kind of time. So you think about most cities, it's early morning. A lot of people need to be in town by 8:30. So before that, the rail is a little bit heavier on their passenger list. And then also towards the evening, we start getting to that 4 o'clock into that 4 to 6 o'clock time. You just have more people that are commuting back to their houses. So some things to be aware of. The other thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit too, but on Wednesday we have registration, so you can come in anytime that you want during our registration hours and get your backpacks. We'll talk about this too, a shuttle that will take you from the convention center back to the metro line, so that you've got, when you are filled with backpacks and stuff like that, you've got a little bit of an assist on that. And then another thing on Thursday to be aware of is we have a lot of groups, and we'll talk about the district event a little bit later. We have a lot of groups who are at the district event and at Concordia St. Paul, and Concordia St. Paul is right on the Green Line. So one thing to be aware of is that event really is from 4:30 to 6:30. And so when you start getting you'll have a lot of people in that before that 4:30 time that's going to be riding the Green Line from the cities downtown back to Concordia to the Hamlin exit. And then you're going to have at 6:30, you're going to have a bunch of groups up to about 1,500 people that potentially could be riding the Green Line this way. So those are elevated times where there's going to be more passengers riding that, and just want you to be aware of that as you're planning your travel time with your group. The other thing just to kind of know is, in fact, well, let's talk about this. That's kind of the registration portion of things. And Mark, let's talk about the daily commute, what it looks like for them on a daily basis. And one of the things that you need to know is we did want to move those who are a little further. We know that you have some more travel time. And so just so you know, we kept that in mind as we started talking about what your daily picture of the gathering looks like. And so Mark, can you take them through some of their commute on a daily basis when it gets to the full days of the gathering?
Absolutely. So as like Derek said, is one thing that is unique and helps us with this schedule is the fact that there is that large break from the university group to the St. Paul. So in many ways, you kind of think of it this way, we're asking the university group to get on earlier trains, but you're getting on the train the same time as your brothers and sisters down in St. Paul are, if that makes sense, because they're on later trains. So at the same time, though, at night, you're getting home earlier than your friends that are going to go to downtown St. Paul, if that makes sense. So that's where we're again. So St. Paul, if you think of it this way, you might look at the times you're getting back and say, that seems really late. Well, again, you've got later times in the morning because you'll bring up that time. That's the nice thing about having that break in that space. So just so that you see that differences when you're thinking about the schedule and allowing us to get back and utilize the Green Line. One thing I want to say that I did not say before is to understand that these passes that you're going to receive from Metro, we're so thankful for them working with us, is they're going to be free. So you're going to receive those, again, as part of your registration. It's only these properties that we're talking to you here, and then those that we're calling our Mall of America properties that are on the blue line. So just so that you understand those, that that is available to you that way. We're still working on that distribution plan, what it'll be, but if you're planning right ahead and thinking about that, just to kind of probably give you the simple how thing that's going to work, is if you're driving, probably you're just going to get them at your hotel when you check in and meet your CLB, your community life builder, is that they'll have them. We're working on a plan of what that looks like for flyers. And one of the reasons why that is because if we can, we want to save you buying that pass on the light rail if you're going to utilize that to get yourself to your property. And so if we can, we're going to try to make that happen. But there's a little bit of logistical and some things in there that we have to work out and figure out if we can do that. But at the very most, if we can't get that worked out and you're going to take the light rail, basically you're talking about a $2 or $2.50 fare that's good for 2 hours. So if you're kind of budgeting that way, that if you want to use that light rail when you're comparing some of the other budget components. So we're working on that plan. We'll have that information for you. So again, want to reiterate, because I know, sorry to say that before, that these passes are going to be complimentary to you, and they're 7-day passes. Essentially the 10th or the 16th is when they're good for. So again, if you're coming in even earlier than that or later, be budgeting that you'll need to buy passes for your group. As well as too, we're not going to replace lost bands. You'll have to be responsible. That person will need to you'll have to help that person, or if it's you, you'll need to make sure you're buying passes to ride the pass going forward from there. So looking at the schedule is, again, Friday through Sunday mornings, as Derek said, you all have a later morning session start. So you'll be at 10:30. So that gives you ample time to get into downtown Minneapolis from St. Paul to the university area. You'll be taking that green line. What we're recommending is that you get off at the Nicollet Mall station. We're telling the blue line folks that are coming from Mall of America to get off at Government Plaza, which you will go by. You'll see them. You'll go by that stop, but you'll go one stop further into the city. And why that is because your morning session is either going to be at the Hyatt, which is on Nicollet, or at the convention center. And that way we kind of split the traffic a little bit, both on the platform getting off, and then also as we walk through downtown Minneapolis. So you'll basically take Nicollet Mall Drive. Those that are on the blue line will probably take Marquette or one of the other streets down. So that way we break that traffic up a little bit as we're at stoplights and that type of thing. So that kind of just gives you a little bit of idea. To kind of, so you know, the assigned trains that you'll be leaving will be between 8:30 and 9:30. And then you'll basically be downtown between 8:50 and 10. So some of you will have a little bit more time at your hotel in the morning, but you'll be moving pretty quick once you get off at Nicollet to get to the morning session. So keep that moving. Other of you will be able to have off and have more of a leisurely time in the morning downtown Minneapolis, whether that's to go to the convention center, they're opening at 8, whether that's to take advantage of many of the Caribous that are downtown or whatever it might be, that you can do that with your group, but you'll have time to do that. We basically consider once you're downtown that really everything's walkable. Certainly you can get on the line still if you want. There's stops that might save you a few steps going to the stadium at night, but we kind of recommend to stay off of that for the local participants. The local citizens. We're trying to get home at night and rush hour and stuff like that, but it's there and there's available, as well as your wristband gets you onto buses as well. So if there's bus lines you want to utilize, but again, we kind of expect it, and that's part of the fun. It's just being with other young people, walking through the city, getting to know the city together with other groups. It's a blast. So we really recommend you just kind of walk between the convention center and US Bank Stadium going into the evening time. Then in the evenings after mass event, we will have both blue line and green line queued. The station is right there at the stadium. So you'll go out, we'll have direction in terms of what exit you go out. You'll go out and get into queue lines there. We'll have Metro staff that'll be helping, our community life builders, other volunteers to get us organized and orderly to get on the trains to go back home. And just make sure you got to remember, we're working on how that wristband might help, is whether you're green line or blue line. That's just to make sure you and your participants kind of have that memorized and know. Then we estimate, looking at the schedule, again, depending on if you stay for Mass Event Plus or if you don't, is that the last participant should be at the end of the line no later than 12:30. So if you think about you're at the university properties, that means closer to midnight. Then on Sunday, when we all leave at one time, we're talking probably about midnight that you'd be back at the end of the lines, which means again about 11:30 to midnight for those of you that are in the university area. So just to kind of give you a little bit of gauge of that timing of how the day works on the line. But again, like Derek said, you got a great advantage. The green line can get you back and forth too. If you're willing to skip some of the program, if something happens, you forget something, need to go back, green line enables you to do that.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to kind of keep in mind is what Marcus really talked about. This is, some of that is the worst, right? That worst case, right way to say it. But like if everyone stayed for the Mass Event Plus, obviously it takes some time to be able to move people there pretty quick. But one of the things that we've really appreciated about the Metro line is they keep on telling us there are 60,000 people that come to the Vikings game, and we use the Metro all over to get people on the blue line and the green line to where they need to go. So they're used to having mass crowds, and we don't have 60,000, so that's good for us. And then the other thing, just that we'll use some stadium signage and things like that. So for example, of the Mass Event Plus, we might say there's no waiting on the green line. So if your group says, hey, we stayed for 30 minutes, but we would love to get on that green line and head right back to our hotel, we're going to try to give some cues like that if there's openings there, just to kind of help you as you lead. The other thing that we're doing Sunday, as Mark mentioned, everyone on Sunday, there's no mass event plus option. So everyone's leaving the stadium at the same time. And we're really going to ask people who are downtown to let you guys go first, so you had the option. But we know that we can't get everyone on the first train, so it's going to take a little bit of time on Sunday night. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to have about 15 what we're calling kind of dessert and snack trucks, food trucks that will be on the plaza. And really an opportunity for you to think maybe a little differently about that wait. So instead of saying, hey, we'll actually wait for the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th train that's heading out there, and instead we're going to do a dessert event where our kids can go and purchase their favorite dessert, and then we're going to grab a spot in the park, which is right there, and we're going to do our community time, because we're going to do that at the hotel anyway. So we're just going to do it in the park and have some food truck desserts, so that that we can community time while we wait. That's an option that's going to be out too, and we'll tell you about some food trucks on the app as well. The other thing that you had me at dessert. Well, good. Yeah, I had me at dessert too, so it worked pretty well. On Monday morning is going to be a little different. We're prepping everyone around this, because with the worship event, it's earlier and the programming is earlier than it has been the last couple of days. And so we are coming really close to the commuting traffic. And so we know that there is, in that commuting traffic, there's more people that come in that morning. So we're just telling you, it's going to be a little earlier. Part of the reason we didn't have Mass Event Plus that night is to get you to the hotel earlier, because that turnaround is going to be a little bit quicker. So we'll help and guide some of that. And like Mark said, we'll get you some of that, the times that we encourage you to be on the different lines to get you in. But we're working with the city. In fact, we're going to have for all Metro lines, we're going to have an update Metro webinar 18th at 7:30. And I believe Meredith's got the link that she'll put out there. And as things develop with the city, and we know time's a little bit better, this will be once again a really quick webinar just to give kind of the latest updates on those kind of things. I want to encourage you to go ahead and to sign up for that, and we'll give you kind of the latest and greatest info on that. So just know that on that morning, it's going to be a little earlier, and to kind of prep your group for that. And so we kind of want to end on, we have just a couple more kind of news and notes things on your particular pocket. And then we're going to open up for questions, and Mark and I will answer whatever questions we can with the time that we have. So think about this. We know with the gap for most groups that it is a full day experience, right? So you get all packed up, you head out of your hotel in the morning, and for most groups, they don't come back to the hotel until after the mass event or the Mass Event Plus. So it's a very long day. I just want to encourage you to kind of prep your youth for that. And part of that prep is to grab maybe some snacks, some individual snack wrapped items, a granola bar or individual carrots or whatever that is for your group. In your backpack. We'll talk a little bit about some of that, as well as the things both in the convention center and state. Just to let them know, grab their water bottle, their sunscreen, their umbrella, whatever you might need to be gone for the day. You can, being on the green line, you can be back and forth if you want to do that. But the reality is, by the time you walk to stations and you get on a train and you come back, it's probably about an hour and a half just travel time to go to the hotel and back, and then depending on how long you're there. So it's not necessarily the most convenient and quick trip, but it is an option for you. So one of the things I want to make sure that you're aware of that. And the other thing that we know, we hear about this all the time, is food options are really important to groups, and sometimes a little bit of a stress for you as a leader, making sure your kids are fed with really good, healthy stuff as well. And so, Mark, if you can talk through just some of the different food options that they have, And maybe we'll even talk about addressing the individual snacks in convention center and stadium. We can talk about that a little bit too.
Sure, absolutely. So one of those key things I know where a lot of you are getting a really fun meal and a great experience is we're so thankful for Concordia St. Paul opening their schedule for us. I know we talked about this already a little bit, but want to reiterate that because I know we get this question quite a bit. For those of you, if you're going to a district event at Concordia St. Paul, whether it's for one of the lunch options or the dinner options, Metro is a great option for you to get there from either your property or either downtown St. Paul or Minneapolis. Just again, a reminder, that's going to St. Paul, so it's the green line which you're on for your property. It's the Hamlin station. So again, depending on where you're coming from, you're kind of going to that central St. Paul area. If you're in downtown St. Paul, it's on your way to Minneapolis. If you're coming out of downtown Minneapolis, it's on your way to St. Paul. So great opportunity. Another way to go to Concordia St. Paul might be a shuttle. That might be something you pre-arrange, or make sure again that your district doesn't have a pickup place in downtown Minnesota or Minneapolis, or wherever it might be. So just double check on those details. And then again, if you're a smaller group, rideshare, Uber, Lyft, whatever it might be, is a great opportunity for you to get to Concordia St. Paul. It's a short drive from downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul. Talking about food options, again, just to repeat again, be thinking about options that you have in downtown St. Paul, as well as those along the Green Line as you're traveling to Minneapolis. Be thinking of those options, the convention center for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, ways that you can eat food there and connect with your young people in that space. Also, as we talked about a little bit, there's a great Skyway system in downtown Minneapolis. It's really kind of a community unto itself in many ways. There's a lot of restaurants, especially kind of fast food or smaller food type things. We just lifted up that it is a great option for you, especially on Thursday and Friday. The restaurants there really cater to the work week folks that are in town and for lunches. So they close often earlier in the day, and then they're sometimes not open on the weekend. So you might find a great place for lunch or breakfast on Thursday or Friday, but pay attention to see whether or not it's going to be open on Saturday and Sunday if you want to use that later in the week. But again, those can be great opportunities for you on Thursday and Friday. You know about, Derek's done a great job and Meredith talking about food pockets that are in the Twin City area. As be looking for them, again, they might be along the train line, or you might be able to take a short bus ride with your pass and get to one of those. And so be looking for those, as well as downtown restaurants in Minneapolis too. Nicollet Mall has a number of them, especially if maybe you're looking out for one nicer night out to bring your group together. There's great opportunities there. Derek's talked about the great food options at the Commons. There's going to be more information coming out about that. A State Fair pre-purchase piece, but then also we're really excited that we think we're going to have a great opportunity for food trucks to come and be at the Commons as well before the mass event, as well as, like Derek said, that option with dessert on the post the mass event plus and post the later time too. So we've got, after the mass event time, they'll have the dessert trucks. So a great opportunity there to get food for your groups. And then there are concessions at the stadium as well. You've probably been to sporting events. You kind of know what the prices are for that, what the options are. It's kind of going to be the same type of thing. But again, another opportunity that if you're looking at your schedule and it's just going to be easier to get in the doors of the stadium and buy food there, that's another opportunity you have for food. And then we've been very blessed too. Food delivery apps, Grubhub, whatever it might be, utilize those. They deliver to hotels and other places. Just again, we remind you that they cannot deliver to the convention center. And so don't be bringing those deliveries into the convention center. But yet, nonetheless, I know those have been a blessing to many groups, and many groups are already planning on using them. So just a few things again to be thinking about. We also have a slide too that has a little bit of the options that you have at the convention center. They've been really doing a great job of putting together a menu for us. They just hosted the Final Four a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about some items they were putting out to test with some of their younger audiences and things. That's just a little bit of a smattering, again, all subject to change, but everything from walking taco to coffee options. They're going to have breakfast food available starting in the morning when they open up at 8 o'clock, as well as having kind of an outdoor grill that can be a dinner option that just has simple burgers, hot dogs, that type of thing that you'd even be able to eat there before you head over to the stadium. Just kind of give you an idea of the cost. Thinking about $6.50 to $8.25 for an entree from a budget perspective. And then again, if you're going to add a side and a drink and a dessert, those will cost $2 to $3 extra per item. So if you're talking about getting all four of those, about $12.50 to $15 for that full meal, which again, that's a lot of food. But $12.50 to $15 for that at the convention center. Really pretty reasonable when you think of being a downtown city like Minneapolis to be able to get that kind of price on those things. So we're really thankful for the convention center working with us on those items. So again, just a couple of things again to think about as you're doing those plans for food, taking care of your young people as well as yourself over the days of the gathering.
I tell you, Mark, we saw the Mac Attack Bowl And at some time, I'm getting a Mac Attack bowl. That looks so good. Mac Attack and Caribou. I mean, that's really
right,
what else.
that's right. And you are set.
You're set. You're set. And Mark said this too. You're gonna in the next couple of days, you're gonna get more information on the State Fair event, and we talked about that at other webinars as well. But a great opportunity for we have about 5,000 people that can do that every day, and signups will start after the next May webinar. I believe it's May 9th, and so you'll start to have some of those sign up options on that. One other thing that I want to make sure that you're aware of, because it's a little bit of a change, we are going to do a 5K. We've been working with the city. It's going to be a little different. The fact that it's in the Midwest, we have actually the option, and it works really well with the city, to bring it into the latter part of the day instead of the first thing in the morning, really super early, because we know that it would have a conflict with different programming events. 4 o'clock on Sunday will be the 5K, and it will start at the convention center, and it's going to go down to the stadium. So they've got a great route that's there. You're going to get some more information about that, and will be the sign up also May 9th that will be a part of that as well. Sure that you're aware of that. Some people may want to run that and hit the metro and hit back to the hotel and shower up if they want to. But I think it's going to be a great event where you just stay and you live together for the rest of the night. How fun will that be? So it will be great. That's my plan. So the other thing we want to do, we're kind of at the point where we've thrown a lot of information at you, and I know some of you might have writer's cramp. Just want to remind you that that Meredith has been recording and is going to send out a link with that will have the PowerPoint, and we'll have this whole thing recorded, so you can go back and look for specific pieces of information that maybe you missed or want to send to someone else in one of your other adults as well. We've kind of reached that time where we're really ready for question and answers. Well, we're ready for questions, and we hope we can answer them. So if you got questions, go ahead, use that chat box, and we will try to answer whatever we can. And starting with, oh, yeah, good, Mark. I had one filled in, and you're probably glad I'm not going to answer it and ask it. So, do hotels have early check-in and late checkouts?
Recommendation to you would be to not count on it. And the reason why is, per hotel, we don't necessarily know what is in before us and what is coming in after us in terms of how quickly they need to change rooms and get them cleaned and get them ready for the next group. So I would not count on it, but certainly check on that when you get there and see what you're able to do. One thing I might suggest is that, especially on the checkout side, is that let's say you have 5 rooms and they're going to allow you to do that. And I'm assuming this is a situation, maybe one about getting checked out and getting luggage somewhere and things like that, is to check out of the 4 and maybe just go to 1, and that way they can get the 4 rooms clean and get them ready for their next guests. So that's one suggestion I would have if that's why you're asking that question, but I would not count on it, just because, and every hotel is going to be different based on what their clientele they have on front of us or after us. Generally, rule of thumb, check-in time is 3 p.m. at properties. Checkout time is either 11 a.m. or noon. So you want to check on that at your own individual property.
Excellent. A couple of food questions here. Go back to one of Dean's questions here. Annie asked about, what about big groups of 60, which we know is a little bit complicated because there's not a lot of places that can get 60 in really quick. One of the things I want to encourage you is to go back to the food packet that we did. And there's one section on there that talk about reservations. Different restaurants that have reservations would encourage you to go and try to get as many to check those out as much as you can to pre-plan that. The other thing that we've done a couple of different things is we are planning, and this kind of goes into, I think, Ryan, your question about the food truck festival. And there's 2 different sides. We are really trying as much as to plan to feed between 8,000 and 10,000 people in the Commons event. So think about that's almost half of the group that we would have food available for people to come and to have maybe a couple different options. So there's the part that is a state fair pre-purchase ticket. So if you wanted to do that one night, for example, you could take your kids down and say, hey, we got 60 kids. We're going to do the state fair on Thursday night. We'll pre-purchase those tickets, and we're going to do the state fair. That's on the east block of the park. That's on the west block of the park. And now on the east part of the block, we will have 20 plus food trucks that will be all around that. And that's not a pre-purchased event. That's whoever wants to come and get food truck food. There'll be 20 different food trucks all around that particular block, plus some stage and some entertainment options. And that's for whoever wants to do that whatever night. So I know some groups are saying, hey, we want to do food trucks a couple different nights. We're also going to have concessions at the stadium, but we do want to let you know that it's stadium priced food. So it's not your fast food pricing. It's a little higher, but they do cater to specifically Minnesota type food venues. So that will also be an option in kind of the pre-event side of mass events. So lots of options down the stadium. Mark mentioned you do the food pocket where you can go back. You can see Annie. We know she's going to be at Canes at least one night with their group, at least one. And then we know there are some groups too that, for example, on that Thursday, they came a day early and they're planning to be at the Mall of America. We know that there's plenty of groups that are going to be there that night. So if that's part of your plan, just know that there's going to be some increased level of airship on that blue line coming in. But some people are going down there because they've got great food courts and things like that they can partake in as well. But look at that pocket in particular, and when you get that email about the state fair and some of those things, check that out. It's really at least an option for a couple of nights. Hey, Mark, Dean asked a question about what about luggage on Monday morning?
Correct. So the question is whether luggage can come into US Bank Stadium on Monday morning. Luggage is not allowed into US Bank Stadium. So assuming the question probably has to do with, let's maybe walk through a couple scenarios, is you're checking out and on your way to the airport, of what do you need to do? So kind of think through this a little bit in terms of the ideal plan would be that you can leave the luggage at the hotel. If you drove, you can do what you want to do in terms of packing out, getting it into the car if you want to leave from the stadium, but the luggage cannot come in with you. If you're going to be flying out that day and you're using the light rail, then again, it would be going back out to your hotel property, checking out, or if maybe checked out before you left, and then getting your luggage and getting. I'll add the statement too that there's the question about early checkout. We work with our hotels too as best as we can, that if you want to get all checked out before you come to worship that morning, is that they provide additional space for luggage and things to go. So maybe use the meeting room that we have reserved, or a small ballroom or something like that, to get where you can come out, get your stuff out of your rooms, and they'll put it into a secure area. So you can go to worship, come back and get it, and go on with your day, whatever it might be. You might be staying for a little bit later into the evening, or if you're driving yourself, you want a little bit more time in the city, that's great, but they'll hold on to that luggage for you. So just kind of think that through those steps as you're leaving on Monday, is that one of the options is that you can't bring luggage into US Bank Stadium. So thanks for that question. It's a good one as you're thinking through those Monday details.
Yeah, and there was, we talked in one of our webinars, I think it was the Food March, and JMB, I think, is referencing this particular thing that we talked about in there. We talked at that one point of, would they be interested if we were to have a stadium food option that would be like a pre-purchase option? And we've kind of been working with the stadium to try to figure out both price point and a good food grouping that people would be interested in. And we kind of went back and forth with them, and in the end, we've put some surveys out there to see kind of where people were interested in that. And in the end, where the stadium was, the price point for what they wanted, and the kind of the food that was going to come with that, there just wasn't enough interest in that. We did not, going a different approach. Instead of doing a kind of a pre-package, that we're opening up more concession stands for people to have options. And it gives some more healthy options too for those who have special dietary restrictions or certain needs on that. And it just gives more flexibility of choice. So that doing instead. All right. We are open to other questions. Mark and I can time with the duet.
Ask
Anyone
questions. Ask questions.
Take all the time either. We just want to make sure we are that we ask what do you have. Blake has one. How early is recommended to get to church on Monday?
I'll ask that in two ways, or answer that in two ways, and Derek jump in too. Is that if you're taking the rail, we're really planning on trying to have people there again as close to kind of the 9 o'clock hour. Oh, thank you. Okay, so probably again we'll give you very specific times, because again we got to moderate where people are at on the line. But to think of it this way, like we're pretty well planning on getting everyone there by 9. Capitol Ridge will at least be a 30-minute trip, 8:30. But again, we'll assign you to something based off of, because we got to make sure we're facilitating the line well. So we'll at least have you there by 9 in terms of what time to get there, but it might be much earlier if you're going to use the rail in order to make it work. Now, if you're driving, you're going to park down there by there because it's the last day. Then we probably suggest that, probably be thinking about parking roughly maybe 8:30, 8:45. You got time to walk in. So then you're ready for worship to start at 9:30.
And Annie had a question kind of around that too. I mean, certainly depending on where you're at, you have options to go whenever you want. But the reason why we're really recommending that is if you wait till the very end, even though you're closer to the property, as Mark said before, chances are the Metro Cart's going to be full and you won't be able to get on. So that's really why we're going to help you with that. And so you're, like Mark said, you're going to get on about the same time as those that are further down in the road, and it'll get you there in plenty of time.
So Annie, how I would say, probably on the blue line, because there's more people, we're going to be much more suggestive about what time they're getting on at what location. On the green line, there's a little bit more flexibility. That probably think of it as we're going to give you a range maybe. Now the issue is, if everyone shows up at the front end of that range, then you're sitting and waiting for trains to flow through, if you will. You got to wait for another train to come that has space. But we'll probably give you more of a range about when that time would be open for you to get on the train once we work more with Metro.
And Hallie and Billy asked this. Actually, I'm not sure which one asked this. I think they're both on this. So they asked about the parking situation. Sorry, I missed your question from before as well. What's the parking situation at the hotel? Specifically, they've got a 15-passenger van.
Again, there, I would check your hotel's website or call them even. Sometimes a call is even better. Every property is different. Some might have free parking. Some might own their parking lot that they will charge for parking on it. Others will have maybe, like, especially I think in the downtown St. Paul properties, they might have maybe a shared parking ramp that you can utilize, but again, will have a cost. I'll throw it out there. I saw the conversation already going on the adult leader page. If you think you're not going to use that 15-passenger van and you're in a situation where it's going to cost you money, there is conversation going on, I know, about churches that are letting people park for free. What it would mean is that you would come in and drop your group off, take the van out to the church, and then basically have to pay for an Uber or taxi back to your property. So you're just paying that one cost rather than a daily fee for parking. So if that's the reason why you're asking, looking to save money, and you're afraid you're in a charge situation, I know that conversation at least is going on the adult leader page about churches who are willing to do that. We'll probably start to gather that a little bit too for some options, but that kind of gives you a little bit of some thought on that.
Mark, Ryan Howard asked this question. What about servant event deployment? Will most deployment be from the convention center? And if so, will we have to the convention center earlier? We have a morning session.
Thanks, Ryan. So answer that way in a couple of ways. Is that for the most part, I would say for servant events for this group, there will not be a deployment. So if you're assigned to an offsite servant event, we're working to get this information from the team. If if you're working an offsite served event, most likely you'll be taking the light rail to that served event. It'll be along the line somewhere, or it might be in downtown Minneapolis. There will be no deployment from the convention center. Primarily, a lot of the deployment is going to be at our properties that are out in Bloomington, what we're calling Bloomington properties, which is kind of in the southwest corner of where we're at. So you will not need to get to the convention center early for any deployment. And that way too, you wouldn't be missing a morning session. So that's the main thing. The area will probably more people in this pocket will be assigned to is our on-site service opportunities and food packing opportunities is most likely the percentage basis how it'll play out. Those again are at the convention center. So you would just be going down for your day for your morning session and have that opportunity to serve on-site at the convention center.
Excellent. Some other questions here that came in. Some people talked about complimentary parking in downtown. We can give you a link that shows you, there's all kinds of different apps that show different parking garages downtown, and it shows everything from what's open, what's available, prices, and all those kind of things. We do not have an arrangement with the city for complimentary parking downtown. It's just not the way the downtown works. All the parking garages really down there are independently owned from different people, and so. But there's an app that you can go to see the different places. Someone asked about the parking near the stadium and what's it cost. There's a Fleet Farm garage that's pretty close. It's actually pretty reasonable. But a lot of it depends on when you come in, when you park, the hours, depending on if you're gonna leave it there for just a little time or the whole day. All that kind of depends. So once again, there is a map that Meredith just pointed that some of those different places. I would take it, research it. Like I said, there's an app, you can put it on your phone and see different things. That's what I have when I come down there. And so I look at what's open, what's cheapest, and how long do I want to walk. Oh, hey, there was a great suggestion about lots of different restaurants that are pretty close off the Green Line, including White Castle. Look at that. Which Jake, one of our key voices at the stadium, that's his favorite place to be. So we'll have to forward that to Jake so he feels at home. Here was the other one. Excellent. Amy asked where to join the leader page, which is a great place to go. Lots of different people talking about experiences or things that they would recommend. So if you're not a part of the adult leader group, would really encourage you to be there as well. Jake really does like White Castle. Any other questions? Or if I missed one, please repost it because we want to make sure we have just about 2 minutes left. Blake has a question. Does wristbands get you on the buses? How does that work?
So yes, correct. Wristbands are good for both the light rail and the buses. So essentially, again, I should have said this at the front end. If you're new to gathering experience, especially, every participant has a wristband. Adults will have one color, youth will have another that gets you into gathering program, mass events, convention center, whatever it might be. This will be a separate wristband that then we're designing with Metro. So your youth are going to have to get used to, and you yourselves, when you're getting on, that you're probably showing a wristband if they've got attendance on the platforms for the stations, whatever it is, just so that you're showing your wristband, similar to what we do at the gathering program as well. So the same way too, bus drivers will know that wristband and by that design is good for those days. And so yes, you will be able to ride Metro buses as well. Keep in mind, again, a lot of you might be familiar with using the public transit. Yes, like a public bus might sit 40 people, but remember, it might already have 20 passengers on it. So it's not an empty charter like you might be used to in other situations in terms of utilizing that. If you're a small group, it's great. You can find seats to get on, but just kind of be thinking that through depending on how you want to use it. But yes, the wristband will work on all public transit in the Twin City area that is Metro.
Excellent. By the way, it does not work on a Greyhound, so you can't put a kid on a Greyhound and send them wherever that bus is going. Question J&B, thanks for the clarification. There is people that have said, hey, they're driving, and we've had some within that group of people, and we'll have some different conversations with that particular group. So stay tuned. There's more information that's coming in that. So thanks for clarifying your question on that. That's great. So we really want to honor your time, but what I'd love is to end with prayer for you. And we are so thankful that you are investing your time. You are giving many of you vacation days to make an experience like this possible for your youth in your church. So that this opportunity has a real just an incredible opportunity in each of your to be a part of their faith journey. And that's one of the prayers that we really have, that it would be just for the youth, but for you as well. And so we've been praying for you. Our plan has been praying for you. And we would just like to take a moment to pray for the incredible opportunity and task that you have in front of you as a leader. So please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we sit away from Easter and we think about the beauty and the victory of the grave and your victory over what that means for Lord, the freedom that we have to live in the beauty of the gospel and the free gift of salvation you've given us. Lord, also the opportunity that you put before us to come into Minneapolis this summer and to be a powerful witness to the city of this, not just story, but what it means to us for our eternity. Lord, we thank you for each and every one of these adult leaders. We know that it's not by accident that you have put them in the role that they are. That, Lord, you have selected them to make a meaningful impact into the lives of the youth that they're going to bring with them. We ask that you give them wisdom and strength and joy and encouragement as they get their groups ready and they get the anticipation of the gathering and what you're going to do in July in Minneapolis. Lord, we just can't wait. And so bless their preparation, bless the last minute details and the fundraisers and all those kind of things as they get ready for it. And Lord, we just pray that you would send your Holy Spirit to bring the peace, knowing that you're in front of this and that you are going to do things. So we can't wait to see what you do. Bless each of these adults. Ask this in your holy name. Amen.